Today I'm going to show you how I replaced my old back door with this new, much better looking one. There's two reasons why I've decided to change this door. The first one is that the overall look is very dated. Something like this frosted glass just doesn't get used very much these days. The other reason is that the newer door is going to be mostly glass, so it's going to bring a lot more light into this room. I started by removing the old door. That thing could have withstood an RPG. And then after that I took off the door stops. I was going to reuse these, so I took them off as gently as possible. The new door was slightly shorter than the old one, so I had to drop the frame by 35 millimeters. I didn't have the correct width timber for the frame, so instead I just used two boards with one ripped down the center to make up the width. Now, because I didn't want to use the old hinges, I measured out on either side of them. This would be where the new hinges would attach. Now I've chosen to use non-mortising hinges, and I know there's going to be a lot of you out there screaming that I'm cheating and you should be doing this with mortises, but as someone who's never hung a door before, I feel a lot more confident using these because basically it just takes one step out of the process. I transferred that measurement to the door. Then lined up the hinges, making sure the pin was raised slightly off the door. I punched some holes, drilled some pilots, and attached the hinge. I did the same thing for all three of them. So what I've done is cut two shims, one at 6mm and one at 4mm. I know that there's a slight slope on the floor, so now when it comes to lining up the door, there needs to be a slight change in the shims. So I'm going to use these to shim the door up, and then I can find out exactly where I need to put the hinges onto the frame. At this point I realized the door was a bit too long, so I had to cut 5mm off the top. And then once that was done, I rounded over the edges. I then marked the placement of the hinges on the frame, again making sure the pins were away from the frame by about 2mm. To start, I only installed one screw in each hole, just to check that the door would fit in the frame correctly. You can see here as I'm closing it, it's catching, so I had to plane a taper on one end. Then I attached the door handle. Using the instructions provided, this was a lot easier than I expected. It shows exactly where to drill each hole, making it pretty much straightforward. Before mortising in the latch, I scored the lines using a knife. This makes it a lot easier to get the chisel into the correct position. Attaching the strike plate was a bit more tricky, but once I knew the top and bottom line, I could divide the space in half to find the center. Then once that was done, I could take a spade bit and drill out the hole. Installing the deadbolt was basically the same process. And that's it for day one. We have a new door on that is lockable, so I can sleep easy tonight. The next day I started work on the frame, using offcuts of pine to plug the old holes. Once these were glued into place, I could fill the holes. After that, I sanded the door and dusted it as I went, in preparation for the finish. I used a wipe-on polyurethane and did 4 coats over a few days. To install the doorstop, I ran a pencil line around the door when it was closed and locked. This would be my reference line. It was offset from the door by a couple of millimeters to make room for any movement. I ripped the old doorstops down from 90 to 50 millimeters wide, which made them look a lot more proportional in the space. and those got screwed and nailed into place, using the reference line from earlier as a guide. Now it just needs a coat of paint on the frame and we're all done. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, and as someone who's never hung a door before, it actually wasn't that bad. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe for more videos.